Family of Nolan Wells has a lot of questions that they just can't get answers to just yet. They are not giving up, and in fact, they have hired famed civil rights attorney Ben Crump, is now representing the family and trying to help them get the answers about this young man who disappeared when he went on a trip to Horn Island. This is off of Mississippi in the Gulf. On July 4th, was there with a group of his friends. The friends all returned home safely, but Nolan did not. And a couple of days later, his body was found, and there was an autopsy performed. We don't know the results yet, but the authorities have told us that at this point, they don't see evidence of a crime, but they said that that may very well change, and they're trying to gather more information. While the authorities are doing that, Ben Crump is running his own investigation and trying to get answers for the family, and he is joining us right now. Ben, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Hey, thank you, Charles, for having me. Harvey, thank you as always.
Of course. There's a lot to talk about here, but let's start with cause of death. I know that you may not have a formal autopsy, but you have been looking at it, and it seems to me that is the starting point. Do you have any sense of how he died?
We don't want to speculate, Harvey, so we're going to investigate every aspect of why Nolan Wells is not with us today. We know that he was with his friends. They went out on Horn Island, as Charles said. He was the only black teenager that was there. And, you know, all of them came back safely on the boat with his cell phone, Harvey. But Nolan's body was found washed up on the shore on Monday morning. And so his family is not accepting that it was an accidental drowning. They haven't been told anything, but that's been the suggestion, and they're not accepting that because Nolan was a college football player. He was a superior athlete. He was in great fitness and condition, and so for them to try to say, well, we got his phone, but we don't know where he's at, and then he turns up dead, they are not accepting it, and there are so many questions, so many contradictions.
So, Ben, there is one of, you mentioned that the friends who came back, they returned Nolan's phone and some of his clothing to his parents, and their claim was that he said he was going to stay behind. I know there's one friend, a young woman, who has come forward and has spoken to the police, and I'm wondering if she's spoken to you and how her version of events differ from what the other friends have said.
She hasn't spoken to us, but we know her statement that she released publicly. She said that she was talking to Nolan, and then Nolan said, well, I'm going back to the boat with the guys I came with. That's her version. Mm-hmm. She said that he did not leave with her, that he went back and got in the boat with the other boys. Well, the boys say that when they was talking to Nolan, he said he wasn't going to get in the boat with them, that he was going to stay with her, stay behind with her. So it's a contradiction. Mm-hmm. Their statements contradict one another, and that is something that's very troubling. On top of the fact that we know there are videos circulating where there's an argument where you hear Nolan arguing with somebody, and we're trying to say, this is too much to just try to sweep under the rug. No, we want to have a thorough investigation as if it was 3 black boys and a white boy who was with them ended up dead. We want that same investigation.
I do have a question about that because you've raised this twice. You mentioned that Nolan was the only black person there. And look, you have such a history with civil rights cases. Are you suggesting race is an issue here?
Well, obviously in America, race is always a factor, but we're talking about the state of Mississippi, and we know based on the history of America, in the Deep South, there have been many racial killings where there were nobody held accountable. We don't know what happened here, but we cannot forget history, and we have to respect his parents saying that we want an independent investigation because we're not trusting people who are affiliated with Mississippi law enforcement. We have too many lived experiences as Black people in America.
Ben, I want to go back to the phone because it does seem odd that the guys who came back with Nolan's phone and his clothing. They returned it to his family. Something doesn't add up there. Like, what teenager, regardless of what they're doing, says, "Take my phone. I'm not going to need my phone." That's the thing.
It sounds impossible.
Everybody holds on to their phone, and I'm wondering if the phone gave you any breadcrumbs as to what Nolan's, what was going on that day. If there's anything on the phone that you've been able to find.
Yeah. Well, Charles, that's the crux of the matter. It's not adding up. It is simply not adding up. The fact that what teenager gives up their cell phone, that is always something that has us bewildered. The fact that his parents, his mother and father, when they're looking at the phone, they're seeing some deleted messages. So they're trying to figure out what's that about. So we want to dot every I, cross every T, and look under every rock, literally, because they are not accepting that the police saying where there's no foul play, let's just go ahead and move on. Well, they can't move on because Nolan is dead.
Has law enforcement cooperated? Do you think? Are they seriously investigating this? Are they talking to the family? What's the state there?
We don't know what they're doing. As I understand it, they have not communicated with the family
At all?
What they're finding in the investigation. No, I think they've told them they're investigating, but they haven't told them, what they have found or concluded yet.
Has Nolan's body been returned to the family? And do you have plans for? We've covered cases like this with you before. That there's going to be an independent autopsy.
Yes, Charles. We are flying Nolan's body from Mississippi to Washington, D.C. to have a doctor perform an independent autopsy because his parents wanted autopsy done by a doctor that had no affiliation with law enforcement in the state of Mississippi, because that's how concerned they are about getting to the truth and not having any hints of impropriety.
Got it.
What in the hell happened to Nolan Wells? How does a young Black male go on the trip? And according to all the reports, the trip is predominantly attended by young white teenagers. Everybody comes home intact with all their belongings, except the young Black boy. The young Black boy doesn't come home, and nobody knows what happened. Inconsistent stories, no information, everybody's hush-hush. And like Ben Crump and even the staff in the TMZ store said, this stuff don't add up. It does not add up. So as far as we know, from information that I was able to gather, now we're going to look. I'm not saying I have the God honest truth, but I did my best to gather as much information as possible to give you, and so we can all be updated on what's going on with Nolan Wells. And I also have 2 other videos to show you as well because the next video will be the person who is the supposed rescuer of Nolan Wells, the person who supposedly found the body. And then we're going to get more breaking news on the deleted text messages from Nolan's phone. Right, because it ain't adding up. So do me a favor. Please hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Please share this channel. Please subscribe to this channel, because you know we get it in with a lot of good information. We challenge ideas. We're here to grow. We're here to learn, become better Black people. All right, so as of today, Thursday, July 9th, 2026, and I'm saying the date of this recording, so you'll know this is the time that or the day I was able to gather all this information, right? This latest information that I have. So Nolan Wells' death remains under active investigation. His cause and manner of death have not been officially released. Authorities have said drowning is suspected, but we don't suspect drowning. Crump's like he was physically fit. Crump meant to say he was physically fit. He was like physically in shape, but drowning is suspected, but that conclusion has not been confirmed by the state autopsy, the toxicology testing. And at the time of that video, this TMZ video, which was actually 4 hours ago, Ben Crump was mentioning the family wanting to do an independent autopsy because they want to do their own investigation into their son's death, because anybody with a developed frontal lobe and some common sense and some logic know y'all trying to cover something up. This sounds like a massive cover up. This sounds like a massive cover up, right? Because there's too many legitimate unanswered questions and apparent conflicts that are available in these accounts. But the problem so far is there's no verified evidence proving that any foul play happened to Nolan. There isn't anything proving that he was harmed. Now, of course, our spidey senses tell us he probably was harmed. He probably was harmed, especially with the information getting into his cell phone. So, who was Nolan Wells? His full name was Nolan Xavier Wells. He was an 18-year-old from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. He had graduated from Ocean Springs High School and was attending Southwest Mississippi Community College, where he played wide receiver on the football team. He was expected to return to campus on Monday, July 6th for football practice, and would have turned 19 in August. Friends describe Nolan as kind-hearted, calm, and protective of others. They're going to be described one or the other way. I guarantee somebody going to try to find some dirt on him, though. Several said he was often the person who tried to stop arguments rather than start them. So that's great. They also said he knew how to swim and had taken swimming lessons at the YMCA. So that doesn't negate the possibility of drowning, but it does challenge the possibility of drowning because we know it's a big ocean. So what we do know is on Saturday, July 4th, Nolan traveled by boat with friends from a private dock in the Ocean Springs area to Horn Island in Mississippi, a barrier island 10 miles off the coast of Mississippi in the Gulf Coast. The island is roughly 10 miles long and relatively isolated and accessible primarily by boat. Initial reports often simplify the trip by saying Nolan went with 3 friends. However, there were many other groups and boats gathered around the island for the holiday, so it was a whole bunch of people out there. A whole bunch of people. That makes it even more not believable and not trusting that he might have just drowned or something, and that don't nobody know what's going on, because Anybody and everybody and their mama was out there. So all those people out there, and nobody knows what happened. Even these 3 people that's in this picture with him don't know what happened. Nolan's immediate boating party and the larger crowd on the beach should not be. Well, so basically what they're saying is, my notes are saying that the boating party that Nolan was with is not the same crowd of people as the people who was on the beach. And I get that, and I got that. But all that means is more eyes were in the area and more people were in the area. So it should have lessened the chance of nobody knowing anything. Somebody should have saw something, whether it was in the immediate party or anybody in the surrounding area. Somebody should have saw something. Somebody should know something. And the fact that everybody's like, we don't know nothing. All right. And so this photograph right here that's on the screen, it was recently taken. Public reporting has not established that everyone in the photograph remained together throughout the day or that those 3 were the only people relevant to Nolan's final moments. Cool. So a publicly reported timeline that I have is Nolan was apparently supposed to travel with his close friend, 17-year-old Javon Williams. And we know Javon ain't white. So he was supposed to travel with Javon, reportedly, but the boat Nolan boarded filled up. So according to these reports, Nolan and Javon were separated. Javon took another boat and later met Nolan on the island. So according to this report, he was separated from his homeboy, but they reunited on the island. But reportedly, both left their phones on the boat. So yeah, saying both reportedly left their phones on the boat Nolan had ridden. But that don't make sense. How would both leave the phone? Oh, I guess they're saying Williams took the same boat on a later trip and both left their phones on the boat. But like Ben Crump is saying, I wouldn't even leave my phone on the boat. So we know some teenagers not leaving their phone on the boat. Like if I'm going out on this trip, my phone is going everywhere I'm going, except in the water. So if I'm going to Horn Island, of course I want to take some pictures. I might want to take some video. I might want to, capture a couple moments of me and my homies getting it in. So of course I'm gonna bring my phone. So are those reports really true that he didn't bring his phone, or was his phone taken? They said before the trip, Nolan's friend Trace Carter told him to be careful and contact him when he returned. And then Nolan reportedly responded that he would contact Trace Carter. So around 3 p.m., the Jackson County Sheriff's Office initially identified approximately 3 p.m. as the last time that it was confirmed that Nolan was seen on Horn Island. The son of Judge Ashley Cole, Warren Cole, was among Nolan's friends who said that they saw they last saw Nolan about 3 p.m. So let me get these names together. Okay. Nolan, hold up. Okay, so Warren Cole said he last saw Nolan at 3 p.m. on Horn Island. Okay, let me read that again. Judge Ashley Cole, whose son Warren was among Nolan's friends. All right, so Warren was among the friends that was with Nolan, and Warren was one of the ones that confirmed or that gave an account that he last saw Nolan at 3 p.m. Cole said Nolan decided to remain on Horn Island and return to the mainland later with another group of friends. Sheriff John Ledbetter has presented a similar preliminary understanding, saying witnesses indicated Nolan intended to obtain a ride with someone else. Now, there's another account where the friend Javon comes in. According to the Sun Herald, Javon told them that he believed he saw Nolan after 4 p.m. And he said Nolan was visiting with a girl and talking with other people in the crowd still on Horn Island around 4 p.m. or after 4 p.m. That report potentially extends the last known sighting timeline beyond the sheriff's publicly stated 3 p.m. So that's another inconsistency. It's the timeline of when he was last seen. So, of course, this is one of the issues that investigators must reconcile, right? So, was 3 p.m. truly the last time that someone seen him? According to Warren Cole, that was the last time he was seen. But according to Javon Williams, he was last seen after 4 p.m. and with a crowd of people, within a crowd of people after 4 p.m. So are there any photographs, videos, cell phone coverage, anything, any kind of information or digital footprints available that can be recovered? Because we know right now we got he say, she say. So now around 4:30 p.m., according to Ashley Cole, the friend's boat left Horn Island around 4:30 p.m. because it was taking on water and experiencing a problem with the mileage pump. She said Nolan had chosen to stay and planned to return with another group. That's what Ashley Cole said. So you got Ashley and Warren Cole saying that. And now this is after 4:30 p.m. that Ashley is saying this. The mileage pump removes unwanted water from inside a boat. A failure could create a legitimate reason to reduce weight, leave quickly, or return to shore. But investigators need to verify the seriousness of the problem through the boat's physical condition, repair records, photographs, videos, and statements from everyone aboard. So the boat problem is something that you have to put on the table. But why isn't anyone else missing if the boat was a problem? There should be other people missing as well, not just one person. Now, apparently he wasn't the only black person from what information I'm reading, but he was one of the few. And I get what my notes are telling me about the boat, but other people should have either gone missing or there should have been a report that a boat had went over, and we have neither one of those. So that is another problem. So, and there's a whole bunch of disputes over if Nolan intended to stay on Horn Island or not. Did Nolan decide to stay on Horn Island, or are people making this up to cover themselves, to cover up what they did? Right? Because from the friend's side, the friend's account, the publicly reported account attributed to Nolan's friend said that he voluntarily stayed on Horn Island, apparently because he was socializing with a young woman or another group and expected to ride back later. So he was still with other people. He was still with the people. So somebody still should know because there was enough people around. Judge Cole said Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends. Sheriff Ledbetter said interviews gave authorities the same general impression. Now, Judge Cole. Is it possible that Judge Cole is covering up for her children? Is it possible that Sheriff Ledbetter, being someone who's under Judge Cole, I'm assuming, they're all cooperating and helping to cover up for Judge Cole's children and their friends for what they could have possibly or allegedly possibly done to Nolan Wells? Because you have to take that into account. We have the children of authorities who are involved in this, and the authorities are deeply involved. So are the authorities deeply involved for the sake of care and concern and their public duty and their civic duty to Nolan and his family and the community, or are they intimately involved due to the concerns of making sure that their children don't get sent to prison for taking someone's life? Attorney Brian Crump said a young woman who had been speaking with Nolan reportedly claimed that Nolan told her he was going back to the boat. Crump contrasted that with the friend's claim that Nolan told him that he would stay with her. Right? These accounts are not automatically irreconcilable. Nolan could have changed his mind, spoken to different people at different times, or meant that he was briefly returning to the boat without necessarily leaving the island. But until the sequence and exact wording are established, the conflict remains important. We still don't know if Nolan truly stated or even intended to stay on the island. So, you know, a lot of things have to be looked at by the investigators. Who was the young woman that's involved? At what exact time did Nolan speak with that young woman? What were his precise words? Did she see him walk toward the boat? Did she see him leave the boat? Did she see the boat leave? Who else heard the conversation? Did she communicate with Nolan electronically before or during the trip? Did any video capture their interaction? And these same questions should be asked to the friends who said that Nolan was staying on the island. Now, before I get to Nolan's cell phone, I want to play this video of this gentleman who is supposedly the rescuer of Nolan Wells' body. So we're gonna see what this talking about.
Reports like this one. Joining us now is Josh Gill, the Cajun Navy's incident coordinator for the search and rescue for Nolan. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. Can you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Josh Gill, I'm from Louisiana, the incident commander for the United Cajun Navy.
And how long have you been with the organization?
Been with the organization on and off since its inception. Really been instrumental in the role for a couple years now.
And shifting over to the Nolan Wells case, can you describe the water conditions surrounding Horn Island?
Can we trust the United Cajun Navy? Can we trust the accounts of the United Cajun Navy? I'm not saying we can't. I'm just asking, can we?
For those of us who are not familiar with the area.
Sure. So Horn Island's off the coast of Mississippi. Believe about 10 miles off the coast. It's a 144 square mile island. It's pretty big. It's a location that's in the Gulf of Mexico / Gulf of America, whichever nomenclature you want to use. It's a destination area for boaters, right? Fishermen, boaters, recreational boaters as well. July 4th weekend, the water wasn't extremely rough. It was a normal day. I'd say, light swells, maybe up to 1 foot.
The water wasn't rough. It was a light, normal day. So that does reduce the chances of him drowning. Not saying it erases it, but it reduces the chances. He knows how to swim. He's physically fit, and the waters were calm.
There is a pretty heavy tidal surge and tidal movement on that portion of the island where they were at. It's a pass between two islands, so there's increased tidal influence right there, along with wind and wave action.
Okay, and is the area popular?
Let me listen to that.
On that portion of the island, I'd say, July 4th weekend, the water wasn't extremely rough. It was a normal day.
Okay, he's saying not, so the waters weren't calm. So I take that back. The waters were not calm, but the waters were not rough. The waters were doing what they do on a normal day, but they were not rough and they were not calm either.
Say, light swells, maybe up to 1 foot. There is a pretty heavy tidal surge and tidal movement on that portion of the island where they were at. It's a pass between two islands, so there's increased tidal influence right there, along with wind and wave action.
Okay. And is the area popular during the holiday, during 4th of July weekend?
Extremely popular. All summer long, it's popular. Like I said, there'll be anywhere from a few hundred boats to it could be over 1,000.
And
so it was possibility of between hundreds of people and thousands of people out there that day.
Can the water conditions change at all when the sun begins to set around the area?
Sure, conditions can change rapidly there. It's not exceptionally deep, which calls for the ability for conditions to change quickly.
Can you walk us through the timeline from the moment that Nolan was reported missing?
Sure. So to the best of my knowledge, again, I didn't get a call till that next day. As I appreciate, late that evening, Nolan was on the beach. The vessel that he came with left, and from there, we don't know what happened, right? Again, I'm just a volunteer, I'm running volunteer operations. I'm not law enforcement. So what happened really isn't what I'm looking for. What I look for a search is that last known location, and then specifics about the area or specifics about the person. Knowing that northwest corner of Horn Island was what we call the LKL, last known location. From there, we looked at the weather conditions, tidal conditions, wind conditions to come up with a plan, come up with a grid on what we could do. As within 30 to 45 minutes of when I got notification of him missing from the family and then from the mother, we had surface vessels, that's boats, that were in the area starting to search. We also had 2 drones that were in the air, as well as boots on the ground on the island doing a manual walk to look for Nolan there. That next day, yesterday, we had at daylight 4 vessels, 2 more people, as well as a fixed wing aircraft in the air that started 6:15-ish, 6:30.
And when Nolan's mom did reach out to you, what was her tone like? Did she give you any information that could help in the search?
Oh, absolutely. So, and again, you can understand the frantic. She was frantic. She wanted to know everything that was going on, and what we could do to provide resources, what we could do to help her find her son. I mean, that's issue number 1, find Nolan. But again, she was, with everything that was going on, Miss Christine was extremely calm when she was providing that information. And I asked some very tough questions. And I just wanted to make sure that, she understood all the questions that I ask are related to helping me find the location to search.
And when you and your team were on the ground, were you approached by any of maybe Nolan's friends that stayed in the area and that they provide any information to you guys?
It is an active and open investigation, so I'd rather not discuss the pieces and parts of who we had conversations with. I will say that.
Now, I understand legalities and all these things here, but there are ways to answer the question, without answering the question. But it is kind of, with our antennas already up, I'll be honest, with our antenna already up, it's kind of suspicious. But it feels like, and I'm not saying he is, but it feels like suspicion, feels like cover up, feels like cooperation with him saying that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I am saying that's what it comes off as.
This is that I don't believe any of the friends stayed.
And what did you know about Nolan's disappearance when you first got that call? Did you know of anything beforehand?
Just basic information, stuff that I gathered off of social media, as well as information from the mother. Nothing that was super relevant to finding. Nolan or to searching for Nolan. Just information that he got left on the island, left or he wasn't there, possibly, hopefully, and as we prayed that he may have made it onto another boat. So what we do is we gather information, right? We gather as much information as possible. We then blast it out to social media. We've got a huge following, and this one went extremely viral, to ask for help. The more people that see something, they could possibly say something. So we actually, at the time of him being found, we had people in the air, we had boats on the water, we had boots on the ground, on land, on the mainland as well, looking in 3 different locations where people had said he may have been seen that day, that evening before, or that evening he came up missing. So we take into account everything, every tip, every, hey, go look here. We do that. We do it because we want to make sure we're providing all the resources that we possibly can, checking everything out, and letting the family know that, hey, every life matters to us. It doesn't matter race, creed, color, religion, nationality. I don't care. We want to make sure that every family understands putting every bit of effort into it.
So effort in any way after the 24-hour period when no one's still not found?
No, we remained steady with our search and our operations. We coordinated with the local Jackson County Sheriff's Office. We let them know what our grid pattern was. We sent them our grid in our search areas, and we coordinated with them. Again, we notified, let them know that we would be in the area, in the air, multiple locations.
Were the members of the Cajun Navy on the island when the body believed to be Noah was found?
So I would rather not disclose any of the details.
I believed to be Noah. Was it found in the same area as where the 18-year-old was last seen?
As I appreciate it, was within close proximity to that northwest corner of the island. Again, I don't want to get into specifics. It's an open investigation.
And how has social media helped the Cajun Navy in their search and rescue missions or operations?
United Cajun Navy,
It's a lot that he can't tell us. Young man is asking some good questions, and it's a lot that he can't tell us. So before he goes on, let me get into this piece. So Nolan's phone is another major source of public concern, right? The Sun Herald reported both Nolan and Javon Williams left their phones aboard the boat Nolan traveled on. Williams later retrieved his phone, while Nolan's mother located Nolan's phone using Nolan's mother located Nolan's phone using location services. So his mother found the phone. So Javon, we're looking at you too. We're looking at you too, Javon. So Ben Crump later said Nolan's friends took the phone when they left Horn Island, and that by the time the family recovered it, some messages had allegedly been deleted. Public reports don't specify, but you heard Ben Crump say it in the video that I played earlier. So if nothing is happening to Nolan, why would his friends need to take his phone? If Nolan is okay, Nolan is in good health and he's safe, why would friends need to take his phone? So now we're asking which messages were allegedly deleted. Where were the messages? What app? When were they deleted? Who had possession of the phone at each point? Why did they have possession of the phone? Whether the phone was locked, or how did it get, if it was locked, how did it get unlocked? Whether the messages were erased by a person, automatically deleted by an application, or merely appeared unavailable. But Nolan's mother recovered the phone, and other people were able to get into the phone after his passing. So the phone may not have had a lock, but if it did, was he alive when the phone was last unlocked? So they need to do the digital footprint, CSI, FBI investigation stuff, right? They need to get on it because the allegation is serious, right? but we can't take it all the way to the bank because we have to back it up with evidence. But they do need a proper digital examination, and they could recover or analyze deleted text messages, recently deleted folders, iCloud or other cloud backups, Snapchat records, or metadata, Instagram, Facebook, other direct messages, call logs, voicemail, location history, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connections, device unlock records where available, photographs and videos with creation timestamps, edits, deletions, and account login, activity, cell phone tower, and carrier records, all that stuff. All that stuff get to investigating, right? Investigators must also establish a chain of custody showing every person who possessed or accessed the phone from the time Nolan left until law enforcement obtained it. And so there's a reported argument or confrontation, and I don't know exactly. I think I may have found a video that may show that argument or confrontation. I'm gonna go to Instagram, but let me read this first, and I'm gonna let Buddy finish his video, finish what he's saying. I'm gonna go to Instagram. I'm gonna read this first though. Video circulated online allegedly shows an argument or disturbance near the shoreline on Horn Island. I think that's the video I was looking at. The sheriff's office has acknowledged awareness of such material and asked anyone who photographed or recorded the northwest end of the island and anyone who witnessed an argument, disturbance, or unusual activity to contact investigators. Ben Crump has said witnesses recorded a video allegedly showing Nolan arguing with someone before he disappeared. However, the publicly accessible reporting is not definitively established. So I'm going to look on Instagram. So yeah, so we're going to look for that. The sheriff's appeal for witnesses who saw and heard an argument shows that investigators consider this issue relevant enough to examine. It does not establish that the argument caused Nolan's death, but it is a piece of the puzzle. So just let Buddy finish talking for a little bit.
Through social media, people understand who we are, they recognize us, and they'll reach out to us through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. We turn around, we utilize those platforms to help get the word out on whoever it is that's missing, right? So start with a quick narrative of who is last known location, or information that can help us spread the word. Tattoos, weight, clothing. From there, I build this narrative, and then I make a poster, a missing persons poster. That's got all that information on it with as many pictures as possible. And then I do a video. The video will explain, and every one of them's heartfelt. Hey, we're looking for Israel. He came up missing. It's super important that we find him. His family is absolutely upset and distraught. Might be going through a mental health crisis. Whatever it is, I list it out there, and I do it with a lot of emotion.
He ain't talk about nothing, but Nolan, there's a reported the reported video of the argument on the shoreline, because Buddy ain't really talk about nothing no more. But I did wanted to play that piece so we can see that. So I want to play that video, and so now I do want to check out Instagram. So let me share my screen. Now, I don't know if this is the exact video, but this is supposed to be video of an argument.
Nolan Wells is seen getting into a heated verbal dispute before he went missing. Nolan Wells is seen getting into a heated verbal dispute before he went missing.
So we can see from this video that it's a lot of people out there. If you just look, like, you just look at it while it's playing, it's a lot of people out here. So this raises a lot more suspicion. It raises a lot more suspicion, right? All these people out here, nobody seen anything. This is another one from the shoreline. Guess this is it. Is that it right there, or right? Oh, right here in this area. Okay, right in this area. Okay. So this is the video that they're saying. It's the argument that has been circulating online. So Nolan's mother, Christine Wonsley, contacted the Jackson County Sheriff's Office around midnight after he did not return home. WLOX subsequently reported an important new detail. A friend contacted the Coast Guard around 11 p.m. on July 4th. The Coast Guard would not disclose the contents of the call, but said it did not require Coast Guard assistance. Why nobody want to disclose any information? Why are a lot of details being withheld? That call deserves careful scrutiny. It may have been unrelated to Nolan's disappearance, but investigators and the family need to know. But we don't know if it was unrelated until they investigate it. But why do they refuse to let us know what's going on with it? Because we need to know who made the call, what was reported, was Nolan mentioned, why the Coast Guard conclude assistance was unnecessary, was the call recorded, did the caller say Nolan had intentionally remained behind, did anyone believe he had already returned with another group? When did his friends first realize he was not safely on the mainland? Right. The official multi-agency search did not begin immediately after Nolan was last seen. Nolan was last reported seen sometime between 3 and after 4:30 on that Saturday. His mother reported him missing around midnight. The Coast Guard received a formal request for assistance at 12 p.m. on Sunday, nearly a full day after the initial 3 p.m. sighting or the 4:30 p.m. sighting. At 12:31 p.m. Sunday, the sheriff's office issued a missing person release. A command post was established at 5:54 p.m. at the Lake Mars boat launch. Participating agencies included the Coast Guard, National Park Service, Gulf Island National Seashore, Mississippi Department of Marine Rescue, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, local fire and sheriff department, and the United Cajun Navy. And that gentleman we just saw was with the United Cajun Navy. On Monday, July 6th, aircraft and boats resumed searching around Horn Island at approximately 8:45 a.m. Authorities were notified that a U.S. Park Service ranger had discovered a body in the water just off the northwestern tip of the island. So this is a little conflicting with the buddy, but the buddy and the Cajun people was a part. The Cajun Navy, United Cajun Navy, was a part of it. That location was reported to be close to the general area where Nolan was last seen. Nolan's family was brought to the command post and later to the coroner's office. His mother publicly confirmed the loss that afternoon. On July 7th, that Tuesday, Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lind confirmed Nolan's identity through dental records. The precise recovery location matters. Investigations should disclose when appropriate the exact GPS coordinates, whether the body was floating, submerged, or touching the shoreline, water depth, direction and strength of currents, distance from Nolan's last verified location, condition and position of the body, whether sunglasses or any other personal items remained with him, whether footprints, clothing, blood, or discarded belongings were found nearby. Those facts are important and they can help reconstruct whether Nolan entered the water near the recovery point or was carried there by the currents. So the autopsies. A state medical examiner performed an autopsy on Tuesday, July 7th. Officials said the full results, including toxicology, may take several weeks. As of July 9th, the official cause of manner of death has not been released. The family retained Ben Crump, as we saw, and arranged for Nolan to be transported to Washington, D.C. for an independent examination. One report said preliminarily information from the independent examination was expected by Friday, July 10th, although full laboratory and toxicology findings may take longer. A competent autopsy should examine the evidence consistent with drowning, water or foam in airways of the lungs, lung weight and internal findings, injuries sustained before death versus postpartum damage, head, neck, and facial trauma, defensive wounds, bruising or restraint injuries, toxicology for alcohol, medications, and drugs, water temperature and estimated survival interval, evidence of cardiac or neurological events, signs of aspiration, incapacitation, or unconsciousness, and approximate time of death. Even when the body is recovered from water, the medical examiner must determine whether the person drowned accidentally into the water after an assault, became incapacitated before entering, or died from another case. The manner of death could ultimately be classified as accident, homicide, suicide, natural, or undetermined. Drowning would describe a physiological cause, but it would not by itself answer to why Nolan entered the water. So authorities have said that, and these authorities, Sheriff John Ledbetter has said investigators currently have no information establishing that a crime occurred. I bet they don't. I bet they don't, Sheriff Ledbetter. That is more precise than saying law enforcement has conclusively ruled out foul play. But we know. The investigation remains active, and the sheriff's office continues to solicit witnesses, videos, photographs, and information about any argument or unusual activity. So, the strongest legitimate questions, these are the areas where we're saying something does not add up with the timeline, the cell phone, people last seeing him, the argument, all these last things, right? The timeline is incomplete. The official public timeline uses approximately 3 p.m. as Nolan's last sighting, while Javon Williams said he believed he saw him at the 4 p.m. and the other girl said she saw him at the other Cole girl said she saw him at the 4:30 p.m. in a crowd of people talking. So some witnesses say that Nolan chose to remain on the island or obtain another ride. A young woman reportedly said Nolan told her he was returning to the boat. Those accounts require precise interviews and cooperation. Why was Nolan separate from his phone? If he deliberately stayed on the remote island and intended to arrange another ride, leaving without his phone would have reduced his ability to contact anyone, especially if his phone is on a boat that's leaving without him. However, there's evidence that leaving phones on boats may have been routine for members of the group, since Javon Williams reportedly did the same, but Javon went back and got his phone. Why didn't Nolan go back and get his phone before the boat left, especially if he know his phone was on the boat? Messages were allegedly deleted. The family's attorney, Ben Crump, as we saw, says messages were missing when the phone was returned. This is potentially significant, but the public has not been shown forensic confrontation or forensic confirmation, the messages themselves, or proof who deleted them. So with that being said, let me show this video from, one of my channels, Hype News, as they are talking about the text messages, because apparently this is breaking news. This is some of the latest news that have been added to this case. So that's what we're getting into. So
Plus News, I'm John Appa. Breaking news coming out of our coverage on the case of Nolan Wells, a young black man who would end up missing on a remote island with a group of friends in Mississippi, in which he would be found washed ashore 2 days later. At the center of the conversation lies what happened to the 18-year-old that day, in which this unanswered question has left many feeling that foul play is involved. Now, a part of those reasons for some is Wells appearing to be the only black friend amongst his group of all white friends that he traveled to the island with. While another reason is that there was a reported argument that took place on the island amongst those same friends and Nolan. Now, as mentioned, the family has hired civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, who will now lead an independent investigation at autopsy. On Wednesday night, Crump would sit down with ABC News, where he would discuss his involvement with the case. And now, to the shock of viewers, would reveal that Wells' parents saw that messages were deleted out of his phone before it was returned to them by one of those friends.
What was going on with his cell phone?
Yeah, and that's something that's really troubling to his family as well. The guys on the boat, they said Nolan stayed, but they took his cell phone.
Right.
That's
Right.
not adding up to them. Then when the family gets the cell phone back, Lindsay, they're saying they are trying to understand why they're deleted messages.
Oh.
And so
Now, as mentioned, many have already started pointing fingers at Wells' group of friends whom he traveled to the island with, and their silence for some appears to be very suspicious. On Wednesday, the mother of one of the boys, named Warren, would finally speak after more and more people continued to accuse her son of being connected to Nolan's death, and even the concern with her being a judge. On her Facebook, Ashley Cole would say, "Our family, along with the community, grieves the loss of Nolan Wells. Our thoughts and prayers are with Nolan's family. Our son Warren loved Nolan dearly. Unfortunately, I feel that it is appropriate for our family to dispel some rumors with facts based upon the social media attention that is being diverted away from the Wells family and their loss. Yes, I deactivated my Facebook, given the very heightened emotional state of social media right now. I fear for the safety of my child and my children. My husband and I have 6 children, and we covet their privacy. We do not believe it is appropriate for our minor children's photographs."
If they would be as transparent as possible with revealing as much information as possible, that could possibly help. But one of the things you do have to realize, your children are involved in this. Your children were there with him, and everybody act like they don't know what happened, and they left with his, and not necessarily your children, but others left with his phone. I'm just saying, lady. I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying.
To be circulated throughout the internet, presenting potential threats to their safety. I graduated high school with Christine Wells Wansley. We are from the same community. I have the utmost respect for her and all the Wells family. We mourn the loss of Nolan with them. Our prayers have been and will continue to be with them. My husband and I were not at Horn Island at any point on 4th of July.
But your children
No
were.
one in our family is trying in any way to impede with the investigation by law enforcement or to otherwise hamper the family and law enforcement's quest for answers. Warren was interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and cooperated fully. He saw Nolan last around 3 p.m. on July 4th. They left around 4:30 p.m. when the boat was taking on water, and they had an issue with the bilge pump. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and returned inland later with another group of friends. Yes, I am a judge. I also value transparency. I apologize if anyone was offended that I deleted my social media. There were no nefarious motivations in my deleting my social media. Social media has a lot of positives, but a whole lot of negatives. We live in a world of clickbaiting, sad but true. My family is hopeful that this information will help redirect the attention to the Wells family, their grief, and their need for our community support. Now, despite what they're hearing from other parents and the sheriff expressing they haven't found any evidence of foul play, Nolan's family is not letting up. As Crump would point out in his interview with ABC News, there are some clear inconsistencies taking place, like the young lady who Nolan was last seen speaking with, sharing that Nolan went back to the boat his friends were on, while those friends, as you can see, are saying that Nolan never got back on the boat with them.
And then you have the young lady make a statement, and she says, Nolan and I finished talking, and Nolan said he was going back to the boat. The boys on the boat said, no, Nolan told them he was going to stay with her. So which is it? And all we know is Nolan is dead.
Now, according to Benjamin Crump, the independent findings from Nolan's new autopsy is expected to come in on Friday. And if there were deleted text messages from Nolan's phone, there are a few possible ways those messages will be recovered and hopefully exposing what took place on the island that day. Let's talk about it more in the comments below. Now that we're hearing that there were deleted text messages in Nolan's phone before it was returned to his family, what do you think needs to happen next? Reporting live from Hyper.
Shout out to Hype News. Shout out to Hype News. Because I go to them, and yeah, I'm Stacey. I go to them a lot, so shout out to them. But we looked at the videos that are going around, or one video that's going around of the reported or the supposed confrontation that happened on the shoreline of the island of Horn Island. So we looked at that. So remember, a friend called the Coast Guard around 11 p.m., but the call was deemed to not require assistance. The contents and purpose of the call, like a lot of other information, is not being publicly disclosed. So the judge isn't disclosing information. The sheriff isn't disclosing information. The Coast Guard isn't disclosing information. The friends isn't disclosing information. The girl isn't disclosing information. And all these people just so happen to be white people. You know, of course, we're not saying all white people are like this, but we are saying, you know, when you play on the same team and you got the same ideologies and the same skin color, you know, you look out for each other. Nolan was left on the island by approximately 4:30 p.m., yet his mother reported him missing around midnight, and the former Coast Guard search request did not come until 12:26 p.m. on Sunday. Reminding you, right? It is important to determine whether the group expected him back and when they learned he had never obtained another ride. So looking at the boat malfunction once again, a boat taking on water and suffering a bilge pump problem is plausible. It should nevertheless be documented through inspection, boat records, video, and testimony rather than accepted only as a verbal explanation. And it should be other people who would have went overboard, including the person who was driving the boat. So as far as evidence that's reported that could be supporting a possible accident, is Nolan was on the crowded barrier island surrounded by open water. The western end was described by local friends as having a strong current. His body was found in water near the general area where he was last seen. He was dressed for swimming and was shirtless. There was no publicly announced gunshot wound, stabbing, blunt force injury, or any other evidence of assault. Authorities have said witnesses are cooperating. Of course they did. Nolan may have voluntarily remained with the group, and the swimmer can drown despite knowing how to swim. And these are reported things to say that it could possibly be that he drowned, but just a lot of the information ain't adding up. I mean, there's too many people not saying nothing. We know that there's a possibility that he could have drowned, but the way this case is being handled, it seems like it's a strong possibility that he did not drown. That foul play is definitely at hand. So evidence of circumstances that could point elsewhere, right? Of course, there's no publicly verified information proving homicide, right? But what needs to be examined are injuries inconsistent with an accidental fall or drowning. Are injuries inconsistent with an accidental fall or drowning? Is there verified footage of a physical fight? Now, we did see something that looks like a argument, but we can't necessarily verify. Were there threats made before the boat trip? Is it false or materially changing witness statements, or is it intentional deletion or concealment of messages? Evidence Nolan was unconscious or injured before entering the water. Evidence that someone prevented him from boarding. Is there evidence that he was pushed, assaulted, or abandoned while incapacitated? Were there efforts to delay reporting him missing or misled authorities? Did a recovery location, or rather, is the recovery location inconsistent with tides and currents from the supposed entry point? So the autopsy, digital forensics, and video files, not internet theories, will determine whether any of these possibilities have evidentiary support. But all of that information needs to be released. And we know taking time on the autopsy, but where's the video file and all the other digital forensics? Where is that information? So we know Nolan Wells, there was Javon Williams, there was Warren Cole, there was another young lady who was seen with him. These are the people who were some of the ones who were last seen with him, of course. Christine Wansley and Elmore Wansley are Nolan's parents. I wonder why he has a different last name. But Christine Wansley and Elmore Wansley are his parents. Warren Cole and Ashley Cole are the parents of Warren Cole was the supposed friend of Nolan, and Ashley Cole is the judge who's the mother of Warren Cole. Got John Ledbetter, who's the Jackson County Sheriff Officer. Got Bruce Lynn, who's the Jackson County Coroner. You got Ben Crump, who's the family lawyer. You got Joshua Gill, the United Cajun Navy incident coordinator involved in the search. And that's who we saw the video of. And then apparently Al Sharpton is with this. And so there's supposed to be a press conference July 10th. Press conference July 10th at 12 p.m. So Ben Crump, Nolan's family, and Reverend Al Sharpton are scheduled to hold a news conference at 12 p.m. Eastern on Friday, July 10th at the National Action Network's House of Justice in Harlem. They plan to demand a transparent investigation and the release of investigative records, witness accounts, and findings. U.S. Representative Benny Thompson has also called for a full and timely investigation. So the press conference may provide preliminary independent autopsy observations, more specific information about the alleged deleted messages, the family's account of how the phone was recovered, clarification on the reportedly conflicting witness statements, details about the confrontation video, requests for state or federal involvement, and the names of independent investigators. The bottom line is too many unanswered questions and too many people involved should have know, and too many people not saying anything, and we don't know anything. And there's too much conflicting information, right? The conflicting descriptions of Nolan plans, the incomplete timeline, him being separate from his phone, allegations of deleted messages, the reported confrontation, and the unexplained Coast Guard call are all legitimate investigative concerns. So these are things that need to be looked into so we can know exactly what happened with Nolan Wells, because something ain't adding up in the Nolan Wells case, and I'm calling foul. Something smells foul in this. It smells like some bullshit has happened. Even though I don't have the proof to prove it, it's a lot of bullshit that's happening in this. And there's too many people with authority who are intimately involved in this case. That's all I'm gonna say. So if y'all could do me a favor and please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share. Please hit that hype button. Please continue to support this channel. Links to support this channel is in the comments. You can even hit that super like button. That will help me out too. I love you all, and I'm gonna keep bringing y'all this information. So keep being your best black self. Peace out.